Chapter 17 through 20 in Copper Sun. All right, so we're jumping ahead 3 months from the day that we arrived on Derbyshire Farms with Polly and Amari. And this is back to Amari's point of view. The girls have gotten the hangs of things. They're working in the kitchen. They're doing well. Everything's going pretty good, considering, I mean, how well can it really go when you're a slave and an indentured, especially when you're getting sexually abused? But they're doing it. They learn how to skin and gut and cook animals, which is very important, and it will definitely come in play later in the novel. They learned about the Smokehouse, and the Smokehouse is a building on Derbyshire Farms that stores all of the meat, the animals that are hunted and whatnot. And what's important about this Smokehouse is that it is kept locked at all times. The only people that have a key to the Smokehouse are Isabelle Derby, the wife, and Mr. Percival Derby, the husband. Not even Clay Derby has a key. So if ever Teeny needs to get into the Smokehouse, she has to borrow the key. But those are the only people that have a key. And that will come into play later in the novel as well. Little Tidbit, who's 4, has been a great comfort to Amari, because he's like a little brother to her. And of course, Affy could not replace her mother, but it was a nice comfort. It's the same thing with Tidbit here. He's not going to replace the 8-year-old Kwasi. But it's nice to just have that little brother figure around, because it does remind her of Africa. And every once in a while, she will speak the Iwi language to him, even though she's not allowed. If she got caught speaking the Iwi language, she would be beaten, as Tybee told her back on Sullivan's Island. But it's just a way for her to feel some comfort and feel like home. You know, if you've ever listened to a song from your childhood, you reminisce and you get nostalgic for your home. You know, you got to think one day, literally within a couple of hours, she was living her life as if nothing was wrong, and then boom, everything changed. That's pretty traumatic, and a lot changed. Never seen a white person, never seen the ocean, never even knew what this kind of slavery was. It's a lot. While Amari is being sexually abused, she tells, she narrates the story that she tries to put her head in a different place. She tries to remember Africa, because that is the only way that she can get through this terrible forced sexual abuse. And for whatever reason, Clay wanted to speak to her as if they were friends. And she was really disgusted by that more than anything. And we'll talk about that here in a little. So as Teeny is teaching Amari about the different roots and plants around the plantation, Amari specifically asks her, "Can you tell me the one that will kill somebody?" And Teeny said, "Whoa, girl." She said, I know that there is a root that will kill somebody, but I'm not going to show you what it is, because death is not for you to give. And she said, no, you misunderstand. I don't want to kill anybody. I want to die. I want die. She's learning English, so her English is a little broken. She says, I want to die. And Teeny, in this moment, is kind of a lot like Affy. She says, you can't die. And Amari says, but I want to. I hate it here. And I mean, again, I don't want anybody to commit suicide, but I can empathize with her. And she says, listen, you were chosen to survive for a reason. I don't know what it was. I don't think anybody knows what it was, but you've got to stick it out to honor your ancestors, to honor your mother, to honor Affy, to honor me. You have to stick it out. And this is the moment where Affy, I'm sorry, not Affy. Well, we remember Affy, yes, but this is the moment that Teeny tells her about William Badgett. And William Badgett was an overseer on Derbyshire Farms, and that's Tidbit's father. And of course, you might be saying, oh, so Tidbit is half white. Why is he a slave? Because that's how it worked back then, because it was an awful system. And if a female slave had a child, that child was born into slavery. It doesn't matter that he was half white. It doesn't matter that it was by an overseer. That overseer raped Teeny, and then they had Tidbit, and Tidbit was born into slavery. And Tidbit's only 4 years old, but once he gets old enough, he will work in the rice fields. He will be as cute and fun and giggly as he is in the book. He will be subjected to that same awful treatment that male slaves get. Some male slaves were sexually abused, not like the women, but they get terrible physical treatment and beating as well. We also meet another slave on the plantation. Her name's Lena, and she's kind of talking to Teeny now. Teeny is talking to Lena and Amari, and they say that you guys have got to be very vigilant about who you're talking to and what you're talking about. And this comes after they were taking some food to the back kitchen to feed the Derby family, and they see 2 people talking in a bush. Well, they don't see it, sorry. They hear 2 people talking in a bush. Real hush hush, real quiet, don't know what's going on. And they're trying to figure out who it was. And Teeny immediately, no. She said, no, girls, Don't talk about stuff that doesn't bother you or doesn't matter to you or shouldn't matter to you. Because as soon as you get mixed up in the white folks' business, you could and probably will get in trouble for it, because you are not allowed to ask questions. And this goes back to that dehumanizing. The way that the slaves were treated is that they were on a need-to-know basis. So if the slave owner doesn't feel like you need to know a particular piece of information, he's not going to tell you. And don't you dare ask questions, because that is none of your business. They see it as a way of disrespect. So they said, okay, now you might be wondering, you yourself, who was in those bushes. I'm not telling you, but I will tell you later. It will come up, and I promise I'll tell you later. And if I forget, let me know. We've got some geographical reminders in your notes. This is everything that I've already talked about in the past videos, so you can look that up. And I've also put some character reminders in there just to kind of remember who everyone is. And then we get this sort of throwback. Well, we get a description of Isabelle Derby, and then we get a throwback of the original Mrs. Derby, the one that died in childbirth. So Isabelle Derby is the 18-year-old pregnant wife of Percival Derby, stepmom to Clay Derby. She brought her bodyguard, Noah, the slave, with her. That was actually part of her deal with Mr. Derby. When she married Percy, Mr. Derby, she said, please, can I bring him, like, or I'll throw a fit, basically. She has no power. She has no power over her own money. If she ever dies, her money that she brought into the marriage, that marriage dowry, will go to Clay. That's just how much power women didn't have. But she said, please, can I bring him? And he said, okay, yeah, you can. And Noah's also the one that drives the wagon, if you remember. But here's the weird thing about Isabelle. Of course, we don't think it's weird, but it's weird in the book. She's nice to the slaves. She allows the slaves to look her in the eye, which is something that they're not allowed to do to the other white people, the master or the overseers or any of the workers. She treats the slaves with respect. She says, hello, how are you doing? And that's very, very different. And she even, in particular, shares a kind word with Amari and basically tells her, I'm really, really sad that my stepson rapes you. But, you know, if you can try to stay strong, please do. Because I don't want to see anything bad happen to you. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're alive. I'm very, very sorry for your situation. And we can see that she doesn't believe in slavery. She's not racist at all. She's forced into the system because she has no power. If she would speak out against slavery, she would probably just be killed, or beaten, or both. And it's just a really unique character in this book, because if you remember, Bill, even though he was a kind sailor, he still chose to work on a slave ship. That makes him a bad person. But it seems like Isabelle has been forced into the situation. She was forced into the marriage by her dad, because she didn't want to marry this old Mr. Derby when she's only 18 years old. But the dad paid Mr. Derby to marry his daughter. So she was forced into this marriage that she doesn't want to be in. And she's not racist. So she's being forced to live on this plantation that she doesn't want to live in. And some of you might be saying, why doesn't she run away? And I'll tell you, it's the same reason why Romeo and Juliet didn't move away or run away. Fear. She has absolutely nowhere to go, just like Romeo and Juliet would have had nowhere to go. Romeo and Juliet most likely would have been found by a guard. Same thing with the Derbyshire farms. Mr. Derby is filthy rich. He would send guards out for her, or some type of security, and they would track her and find her. That's how they found slaves. They would literally track them with the scent of dog. Like a dog would smell their scent and track them. Okay? So she knows how crazy it is. And she knows how crazy that Mr. Derby can be. And Clay as well. They hate women. And then we meet, of course, we get a little bit of throwback information about the original Mrs. Derby. Now, the original Mrs. Derby, the one that died giving birth to Clay, is the exact polar opposite of Isabelle. She was evil, 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 evil. And she hated Black Americans or African Americans at this point. She hated African Americans. She loved to beat slaves. She would beat them for no reason. And I think that we see a little bit of that mean streak left in Mr. Derby and definitely in Clay, because they like to beat slaves, which is terrible. Okay, so something really confusing in this is Clay. All right. Even though Clay is sexually abusing her, Amari, he says, do you like me? And it's almost as if he does want Amari to have a crush on him. And he sends her candy and gifts, and like a blanket, and she can't even use that blanket. It's so disgusting to her, rightfully so. But the biggest question here is why? Why is Clay doing that to Amari? And basically, it's down to a couple different things. Number one, Clay does not like his stepmom because, you know, she's 18 and stuff. But another reason is because the only person that Clay has ever had was his father. But as soon as Isabelle started coming around, his father stopped paying significantly less attention to him and more attention to her. He's jealous. But where he owns Amari, Amari literally has to pay attention to him. He has to give her full attention or she'll get beaten or worse. So he takes advantage of that. He loves that because he finally feels like someone is paying attention to him. Secondly, it's just he's a narcissist.
Today I will be talking about narcissistic personality disorder. A person with narcissistic personality disorder has an inflated sense of self, needs to feel admiration from others, and lacks empathy. To be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, a person must exhibit 5 of the following 9 behaviors. They exaggerate their achievements in the hope of receiving praise from other people. They are preoccupied with fantasies of limitless success, love, and brilliance. They believe they are special and should only associate with other special people. They need to be admired. They feel entitled and believe their needs should always be met. They take advantage of and exploit others. They lack empathy for other people. They are jealous of others and believe that others are jealous of them. They are arrogant.
He wants Amari to do it. And when he asks her if he likes her, it's because he wants his ego to be inflated. He wants her to say, oh yeah, I like you, because he wants his ego to be inflated. Just so ridiculous. But that's who Clay Derby is. He over-exaggerates his own worth. He tries to reel people in by manipulating them into liking him and things like that. And even though I think deep down inside he knows that Amari is only saying that she likes him because she has to, he chooses not to believe that, and he just wants her to think. Right? He wants to think. He wants to be ignorant and in denial about how Amari actually hates him, and rightfully so.